game, and I don't know who's going to start. Tanner, Noel, Jure, Milt, Devin, Bobo, maybe sometime. I don't know. I mean, I want some things to be competitive. If some guys earn the right to start all the time, that's fine, and we feel confident with that. But I don't worry. I've done everything from had the same starting lineup for 30 games in a row, and I've had 10 different starting lineups in a season. It just kind of how we're doing at the time.
Well, then, do you have an idea of who you want to be finishing games?
Depends on the game. I want Andre and DeMontez in there. And we'll see about our big guys, who's playing well, and those guys haven't separated themselves enough. And there's probably a little more fair competition because there's more 4 big guys right in those spots. And I think it'll depend on who's playing well a little bit.
Is your view of this team's shooting ability any different than it was back in the spring when you got your first look at them shooting the ball?
Well, I think we've emphasized shooting with our guys, and I think we've worked on it a lot. And, especially in August, September, early October, we spent a ton of time, and we still spend time in practice. And do I think it's better? I hope it's better. I don't know for certain, but I hope we're making some strides in that area. I don't think we're littered with a bunch of lights-out shooters, but at the same time, it's not like we don't have any. We've got guys that can make shots. And we probably have enough guys, if they're having a good night, that can make shots to be successful in a lot of games. Some of them just haven't done it as often, but I do think – I think our shooting is improving. I do.
As much as your offense is predicated on movement, I'm wondering how you feel about the tempo right now in terms of do players feel comfortable knowing where they're going and whether that affects the pace at
all? My guess is they probably don't always feel comfortable. I don't always feel comfortable. But it affects our pace a little bit at times. And, I think there are times when we'll play fast like we did, on Friday. But there are going to be also times when we're not going to play that fast. And, I've said early on that I think you need to be good enough to win in the 80s and the 50s. And you have to be able to play different styles of games to win. And hopefully our team will be able to do both of those things. I don't think you can be really good if you can't.
It sounds like you plan on having Andre and DeMontez on the court together a lot, and I guess they both sort of fill the traditional point guard role in the past. How do you see that dynamic?
Everything we do doesn't gear itself towards a point guard, a 2-guard, a 3-man, a 4-man, a 5-man. Like for me, I want basketball players, and there'll be times when a guy will dribble the ball up the court more, no question. There'll be one guy that jumps center, so he'll be the center, I guess. But at the same time, we just want I think Andre Young and DeMontez are guards. I think either one of them, and that's a good thing. I think if DeMontez needs to handle the ball, he can handle the ball. If Andre needs to handle the ball, he can handle the ball. If either one of them, get open for a shot, those are both guys that I want shooting. I don't think there's one guy that's our primary ball handler and has to have it in his hands all the time, and our offense won't work otherwise. I like guards that have some versatility to them. Andre's our best shooter, and he's not your prototypical 2-guard. He's a 5. I don't know if he's 5'9" or 5'10", or I'll say 5'10" if it's going to be on the record. I don't want to make him mad at me, but. He's not a prototypical 2-guard, but he certainly shoots it well enough. But he can also handle the ball and get you into offense and do anything you need to do that way. And he may handle the ball more than DeMontez in some instances.
You ever had a project like Bobo?
Yeah. We haven't had anybody that size, that type of situation. No, that's really hasn't maybe ever played and, now as a junior or whatnot. I really haven't had a 7-footer or anything like that. I've had a couple, 6'10" kids. one of the 6'10" kids that I was coaching early on at Wilmington. When I left, he was still there, but he was a little bit of a project, but he was physically already ready. He was a big kid at 6'10", 250, and so it was some other things with him, and he was going to be good and ended up being a good player. But I haven't really had the big, really big, tall guy that hasn't. You just kind of keep waiting on him and waiting on him and waiting on him. But it's been enjoyable because Bobo's been a very willing participant. I mean, he is eager to learn. He's eager to get out there and play, and he wants to do well, and he's trying. And so it's fun to coach guys that are invested.
What's your comfort level with your depth? What's your comfort level with your depth?
With our depth?
8, 9.
Oh, no. I mean, we're going to play them all just about at certain points. I think our team has to play multiple guys. Now, I don't know if that's going to be, it's not going to look like last Friday all the time where everybody has between 24 and 16 minutes. It's not going to be that. But, I think you'll see most of the time I've had a lot of minutes. 8 guys for certain have always averaged double-figure minutes. I would like to have 1 or 2 more bodies at times in practice and all those kinds of things because I think we wear down a little bit. We can't always practice as long as we need to right now. We just don't have enough quality players out there in terms of bodies to keep grinding it out every possession like we need to, and we wear ourselves down. And that's going to be a challenge in coaching this team this season. I like to practice, and I like to practice a lot. I like to be out there on the court going through things, and I'm going to have to temper, and we've had to slow things up a little bit in terms of time this year. We haven't had any practices of going past 2.5 hours, and a lot of them are at 2, and that's fine now, but you end up having to cut it all back, and with so much to get in, that's challenging. But in terms of personnel, I'm comfortable that we've got 8, 9, 10 guys that can get out there and give us some minutes.
Fred, a couple days away from actual walking out on the court for you. How are your feelings right now? Do they compare to maybe when you started at Wilmington or Wright State?
I'm sure it'll be a little bit. Anytime you take over, a new spot, I've been at 2 places now. It's always a little different. When you're the first time you're the head coach and you're actually the guy that's walking up and down all the time and subbing everybody in and taking guys out and I told my assistant coaches, not this year here, but I've told assistant coaches that I've coached with in the past. It's a lot different when you're the head coach and you walk by the bench and you're the guy that puts guys in and takes guys out. You got guys sitting on the bench looking up at you like, put me in, coach, put me in, coach. Like when you're the assistant and the guy makes a mistake, get him out of there, get him out of there. When you're the head coach, you feel a little bit more all those substitutions, every decision you make, everything's a little more personal, everything's a little more, real in some ways. But in terms of, Friday night, I'll be excited, I'll be anxious, I'll be everything. Nervous, in a good way, and mostly anxious to watch my guys, though, and see how we respond and where are we? You do all this and you don't really know where your team is, But it was also a little different at Wright State, just going to a new building, everything from getting used to, where things are and who you are and all that kind of stuff with the situation. There'll be a little of that too.
With the early signing period starting tomorrow, what are your plans for the week? I guess there's one public commitment. Would that be it?
I don't think we'll have anybody else right now. We're still, pretty much just doing with what we got and figuring out all the other things later.
Anybody got anything else? Okay, Coach.
Thank you, guys.
All right.
Appreciate it.